So here is the actual oven, following on from the pizza dough and cooking pizza video, which I'll put in the description below and on an end screen on the end of the video. It's a modular design, so the top lifts off the base, and the first thing is, to ease this passage, there is two lugs welded on there, just two little bits of box section which really assist when you come to drop the oven in. Just locate them there and drop it down over the riser. Without them lugs it just takes ages hovering around trying to position it, so that makes it easy. And then internally it's just a basic rocket burner with a vortex. This is a fire blanket which you can buy. I did this to just test the thing out to see how it would work, and there is a very thin layer of kaolin wool against that, and I simply wrap the fire blanket round just as an experiment rather than wrapping a steel tube round, and that does two jobs. It keeps heat in and it just stops the kaolin wool from flaking away. Now you can see some more kaolin wool there. This was 2 years ago when I built this, and I put that on after the first burn because I'll show you why in a second. So the riser and the burner and the firebox, they just sit on two pieces of angle iron, which you can see they just run down. On top of that angle iron is a piece of vermiculite about 3/4 of an inch. The unit sits on top of that and it keeps heat in the unit, and it stops heat going down because this thing, as you saw, just sits on a table, and there's a tremendous amount of heat in this. So if you put it on a table without any insulation underneath, it'll just burn your table. Now the reason this is so efficient and burns so clean, it's the introduction of that sideways secondary air pipe there. And that is the reason I put that kaolin wool around that side. It was just to keep the heat in that chamber as it travels in, because this plate gets superheated by the fire, so any air entering gets preheated before it enters the riser tube. And it's a standard little vortex build. There is a video I've done how to build this. That will be in the description as well, or on the end screen. If I can do two videos on the end screen. The reason this is also so good is because it's insulated with vermiculite, the base, the sides, the top, and that little plate allows a little bit of air to travel underneath, but more importantly it allows the air to come up into the fuel, and that's quite essential when this fire is first lit, because it just gives you a clean burn from the get-go. It's not so important as the fire gets up to temperature, but it's in anyway and it does no harm. Now, as I've showed this, you will probably in about 2 to 3 months time see plenty of Russian, Italian and Chinese videos showing this secondary air pipe. Because that's what happens. I've not seen it done before. I'm not saying it's not, but I've not seen anyone do this. And to get this little burn clean, because the tube is only 14.5 inches tall, and it's very difficult to get a tube loaded up with fuel that small burning clean and producing the heat that this thing does. Incidentally, the riser is stainless and it's been on here for 2 years and it's absolutely fine. There's no degradation and there's no damage. And it's simply because this burner doesn't burn for prolonged periods. You know, it's not burning all day. It only gets used for 2 or 3 hours. So it hasn't really got time to damage the riser. Yes, this burn box, I have tried, believe me, every single combination of secondary airs to feed this little box. So before you start putting it here, under here, on the top, on both sides, on the top and the side. I've done everything. So just to save you experimenting, I have done it all, and that is the best place. Now the little perforated stainless door serves two purposes. Once the fire is up to temperature and the door is closed, this gets up to about 300 to 400 degrees, this door. So the air entering through them tiny little perforations is also preheated. It also slows the burn down, so if your stone's getting too hot, you can close the door and it will just calm the fire down a little bit. If you want a big raging burn, just leave the door open, but you'll burn more fuel, although this thing is just so economical at fuel. It is unreal. This is the Mark IV version of this. There's been many predecessors to this stove, and I was reluctant to show it because it was a work in progress, and I don't like putting things out if I know I can improve them or if I think I can improve them, because it just leaves it leads people to make these when there could be improvements to be made. So I don't want to put these out. A lot of people make them and then a few months later me say, actually, if you do this, it will improve it. So I've held back before I showed this, but that is it basically. That side feed, that insulation, and I will do, I'll just show you underneath there. So that's the setup underneath. There's the two little pieces of angle iron with the vermiculite sat on. That is about 1mm, that housing, with just a fold on the top to stiffen it up and for the oven to sit on. When I first had this, I had this Mark II. I had it running for about a year or more, and I had the burner just shoved under the pizza oven outside in the open, but you lose so much heat from that, whereas this contains the heat and it traps it in here and it directs it more towards the oven. So that's why the casing's on. It also allows you to stick that on a table, which this normally sits on a table about that height. So I've got my wood feed at the perfect height and I've got my pizza at the perfect height, so I can just see in. Now the oven itself, it's a twin wall on the sides and on the top. The base has, I put that thicker plate on to prevent buckling because the first one's buckled. So it's just it's about 3/4 millimetre, and the whole oven is 1mm thick steel. The sides are, as I say, there's an inner lining and then there's these two side casings that fit on, and inside there's K-wool insulation. There's K-wool insulation in the top and in the sides, both sides. There's also a sheet of vermiculite on the back of the oven, so that's just a single skin back with a piece of vermiculite on it, and a sheet of vermiculite right over the base of the oven. The stone is cordierite, the pizza stone. I did actually make one for the first oven with a refractory mix, and it stood up well, and as far as I know, I gave that oven to somebody. As far as I know, that stone is still working good. This cordierite is better because it really sucks the heat in better than a refractory mixture, although the refractory mixture did the job. Now, to support the pizza shelf, there's two little pieces of angle iron upside down there, and they're just screwed into the side. And can you see there's another piece on the back, and it upstands about 1/2 inch over the top of the stone, which is important because you can push the pizza off the back of the stone into the gap where the gases come up behind the stone, and that's obviously where the gases enter there. So you can see the back of the riser tube just hits exactly the back of the stone. So you've got this about 5 inches of heat towards the back end of the stone, and there's roughly a 4-inch gap from the back of the stone to the back of the box. I originally wanted to make this a 12-inch box, but all it was, I didn't allow for the inch of insulation, so I kind of built it back to front otherwise. Yeah, I forgot to allow for the fact that I was adding an inch of insulation on the sides. So I think it's 12 inches. Hang on. Yeah, it's 12 inches where it should have been actually 14 inches. So that should have been the inside, and then with an inch of insulation around it. But it's got a steel inside top, as I said, with K-wool on. There's a strip of vermiculite behind this front as well there, just to keep the heat in. The door, the little hinge door, when it's closed, it throws all the heat down onto the pizza, and it also helps on initial light up to warm the stone up. Because it throws the heat down, it allows the heat to travel closer to the stone. I usually leave it just closed or half cocked while I'm cooking. Then I only open it up to have a look at the pizza or spin the pizza around. Those two little tabs are to stop the stone heading forward when you're handling the oven. The pizza stone, this is stored outside, this in the garage or in the shed, wherever I leave it. And these Cordierite stones can suck in moisture, so it's a good idea before you cook, before you're using your oven, to either take the stone indoors and just put it in the oven on a really low heat for an hour just to dry the stone out, or leave the stone inside, take the stone inside, put it somewhere for a day just to dry it out a bit. Because I'm sure I read that if you hit this when it's damp with a lot of heat, you can crack the stone. There are no plans for this because I don't do plans. I kind of just work on ideas in my head and then I just build the damn thing, you know. But I will do a plan, a basic plan. It will be a sketch with every single dimension I can think of, and I'll possibly put that in a video, and I may partially strip the oven so you can just kind of see the construction as well. And I'll put that video on my Patreon channel, because it's my patrons who support me who just kind of really provide these extended videos, and the fact that I'm going to have to spend hours and hours and hours going through this oven and measuring every little thing and putting it down to paper and then explaining how I do it, you know, it all takes time. And my patrons, who I really appreciate the help, they enable this content to happen. Right, the great news is I have another version of this stove in the pipeline for the future, because these little rocket stoves and these burners and these designs are always in my head. Kind of last week when I decided, well, right, we're going to have a pizza, and I got the oven out and I just cleaned it, you know, just give it a little bit of a clean and just checked everything okay. It was okay, and you know, it always is. But it just got me thinking about a different design. Well, that's pretty much it for now, guys. Thanks once again to my patrons, and thanks to everyone for watching. Please like, thumbs, sub, ring the bell, all that good stuff. I will have a video up for my patrons in the next couple of days. A more forensic video, really, on, you know, with all the detailed measurements and things on this if you wanted to build it. Something I was going to say is, it's not just for cooking pizzas, obviously, this oven. There's so many different ways you can cook in it. As you can see, you just shove a frying pan in. It just works fantastic. It cooks things really fast. We have cooked steaks in it. We've cooked all kinds in this little oven, and the food tastes real good. Okay, bye for now.